You know, when I said that the script keepers really is basically running the world, I should perhaps explain it a little bit clearer for those who need to understand that the word world, W-O-R-L-D, really means the human existence or the affairs of life, a period of long term. And so the world, as in time, is really what we're looking at in terms of time and age as being controlled. And so you'll see, while I'm busy doing this discussion with you, a few images that I'll highlight for you to look at and to pause perhaps the video to read it as well. And you'll understand what I mean. I've taken an excerpt of a well-known author of science fiction, Arthur C. Clarke, and most of his works were written back in the day, long time ago. He was born in the 1900s, so he only died like in the 80s. And so most of his work had been used as part of the script keeping for the world, for the age. This type of predictive messaging or predictive programming is what script keeping is all about. Now, aside from that obvious explanation, you need to understand that the word world means age, not place or location, because we are existing within a reality that is governed by an age or ages. And I've mentioned this before as well. Perhaps this script keeper observation will be a little bit different because I've got a few things that I'd like to share and actually put across clearly, more clearer for those who need to understand. Based on the last script keeper that I made, I think it was script keeper 8, I'd explained something that was very intricate and very detailed, but I didn't really give it too much level to explain it in detail for a good reason. Because since then I've been looking for the actual transcript of my own work and it's not available to me. So it has made some ruffles in the system overlay. Basically, what I want to explain to you is that because I started off by saying that we are existing within an age and we are existing within a reality that is governed by that age, I need to explain to you that the age itself can be controlled by modifying and manipulating streams of consciousness. Call it the ribbon of time, as in the last one, Script Keepers 9, where I emphasized the symbol for being. However, I feel that it is important for me to explain it a little bit more in detail as to why you should actually be concerned or aware, made aware. Then again, I don't want to influence your thoughts. I want you to explore things on your own. I want you to dig in and discover and question. All of the information really comes from within, as I've always said, and whenever it is discussed on this channel, speaking about it changes or influences things in a specific way. This doesn't mean that we're using all kinds of weird high magical shit. It means that we are discussing what needs to be discussed, sort of like clearing a wound that needs to be washed clean so that the healing can take place. Healing in itself is speaking and communicating and connecting to those that we care about and doing certain things to help ourselves to become a bit more whole. Healing means to become whole. W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E, as most of these other weirdos and New Agers are punting. If you want to understand the reality that you're existing in, you need to understand a few things. What makes it up. Like I've said in the number 8, that we are existing within a reality that is a pocket of energy around the specific reality. It's like the atmosphere, but it's not the atmosphere. It is part of the atmosphere, or the atmosphere is part of it. And I've given it a word. I've said it's the noosphere, but it's also the biosphere. That discussion between those two words is not resolved. However, I've come to sort of a much more understanding of biosphere, and biosphere really is the physical, natural, spiritual, emotional reality in which you exist in. The physical reality where you can see in nature, when you have the observation ability to see how flowers bloom. Why do they bloom a specific season? Why do bees do things in a specific way? Why are their hives built in a particular way? What are seasons? Why does the wind blow when it blows? Why do you feel the wind when you feel it at a particular time? When it's hot, there's something that needs to cool it down. When it's cold, it needs to be warmed up. I'm talking about those very simple yet very dynamic and very specific timed aspects of this reality that we're living in. Vladimir Vernadsky, and I've mentioned him before when I discussed about the noosphere. However, I don't want to go into historical geographical lecturing, as you know. I want to just share with you the idea that he was exploring the ability to understand the elements of soil. And so he presented a foreign element or radiation substance to test how the soil would react to that specific substance. And in this, he discovered that basically the elements in the soil had manufactured completely new elements to counter that radioactive substance. It's not the experiment itself that I'm talking about. It's about what his conclusion was, that he discovered that it was essentially cognitive, that the biosphere was cognitive. There was a sense of intelligence that would counter something that would be foreign, so that it would be understood, and then something new would be made from it. It's very similar to exploring the mycelium network, spore network as well. That makes up the foundation of the biosphere itself. But again, also, I'm not going to do a Stamets talk with you on it as well. If you really are interested in going into fungi or fungi, then you must do this yourself. However, I do want to say that the emphasis is really about intelligence itself, and no, I'm not going to give you a mushroom talk. I do want to share with you the next thing that's very important as well. It was discovered that it's got cognition. It left open a certain area that needed to be explored. And so many others came afterwards and wanted to explain it in a particular way. People like Pierre Teilhard, Jesuit priest, I have to emphasize that, Alice Bailey, and so many others, people who worked with that specific knowledge that they've stolen or taken from people, such as Vernadsky, taken information and completely inverted it into a New Age religion itself. So sadly, that does happen, where mostly everything that is pure, intentional, and creatively sharing with people with a higher understanding, and then there's always going to be a cockroach that's going to crawl in and try and invert everything. Had completely reconfigured the information of the biosphere and presented it under the banner of New Age bullshit, which unfortunately is how the UN and their educational jargon and the person that made sure that there was a lot of exploration in that. Yes, I'm talking about Alice Bailey, who started the Lucis Trust and the birthing of the New Age, which happened in 1920, already even then, and sadly had taken everything from anywhere and in every way, shape, or form and bunched it all together like one blob crockpot of gooey nonsense that has been the gateway for most things that have been presenting itself, such as education and this young people that have been the biggest interest of all. However, again, I also don't want to do a history lesson because I've spoken to you about Alice Bailey. And if you don't know about this, it's in the video where I called it New Age is the New Age light is fake, for you to see a little bit more in detail why I have discussed this. Why is the noosphere or the biosphere so important? The need to control the noosphere. That is the actual answer. The need to control the noosphere. That is what many of these so-called dark magicians or Ministry of Magic is going after. They really are seeking to control the zero zone or the null point or the null zone or the omega point, and it's got so many names because everyone's afraid of using the right word, which is actually the noosphere, because that makes more sense. However, they deviate from it whenever they explore new information to it. I just actually would like to call it the field, and then I'll explain how the system overlay came to be. You see, it's important to understand that the biosphere or the noosphere is the psychosomatic or the psyche area, or the place where spirit and ether and the elements come together. And the biosphere itself is the arena or the area or the pocket in which reality exists within. Without the biosphere, you're kind of screwed, because the biosphere is the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and everything else within it. And if you do not have an understanding of it, then you don't understand how you are experiencing communication on a constant level. No, I'm not talking about paganism, and no, I'm not speaking about animism, because that is completely different. That is beside the point. I do want to present the information as it is for itself, for its validation in itself. So what I want to explore with you and dig into is the noosphere has cognitive abilities. It's based on a mental activity of life, and as well as spiritual and emotional connections. Simply stated, that the noosphere is the immediate reality that is around you. The only way you are able to understand it for itself is to use the understanding of the soul to understand the noosphere, and the other way around, because the soul in itself is made up as a part of the noosphere. The material that it's manufactured of is the same as what is in the noosphere. The soul in itself is also known as the anima mundi, and I have explained this before as well, but I'll explain it again, which is really the spiritual essence, or that which makes it distinct from matter. It is also the worldly wanderer, which means it travels through the age. Like I've explained to you in the beginning part, that the world really means age, which you must then allocate time to it, or a period, a moment. So also is the soul, living and existing within a moment of time and living within a part of this reality. There are rational parts to a human being, to the soul as well, the mental ability, the intelligence that keys into the soul. Imagine the soul to be like an egg around you, a field within you. The auric field is the first thing that everyone thinks about, and then the chakras. It's beyond that. It's all of those things within it. I've always only just spoken about the spirit in most of my work, because that is who you are. You authentic, original, individual you. That is you. You are the spirit. You are a spirit. And then you have a soul, which is your Uber driver, and you are the passenger, and your GPS is your ego, and the vessel is your car. At all times, you will be operating in that sort of way, much like a planet with a satellite and a sun. A satellite meaning the moon. So you will always have those aspects. You will operate within this process. That is how you have always operated, and you always will be. You have a mind that decides and determines what you choose to allow to come into your soul sphere, within your mind, within your thoughts. You have discernment. You have the ability to understand logic. You have the ability to rationalize things. That is really what's born within you, to have that ability. Why is it so important to understand why the biosphere or the noosphere, which is the sphere of intelligence or the field, why is it important to understand how important? Why is it important? I know I've probably emphasized it's super important because I keep asking why. And I keep wanting you to think about it and ask yourself, why is it so important? Why do I need to understand what the noosphere is? Why can I not just go on with my life and just do things and just relax and just keep focusing on the inner things and my garden and all of those things? Because you need to understand that the noosphere is a highly sought after area or energy field. That is really what's going on. We are in a mental war. The war that has taken place, that used to be in the beginning physical ones, to establish dimension, time, place, location, control over resources. It is the same. However, it is more personal now, and it is much more deeper. It is a spiritual reality that we are working to fight for. Our own real estate, our soul, our mind, ourselves, versus that which is trying to control the noosphere, so that we surrender ourselves to what is being programmed into the noosphere. And so I need to explain why I say that the noosphere can be programmed. Well, in order for me to explain that it can be programmed, I want to explain to you how a soul, why is a soul so important? Because then you'll understand why the noosphere can be programmed. You see, most material, most New Age teachings, most gurus, most high priests, and whatever you want to call all of these knobs that stand out to try and be the middleman for you, so that you are unable to connect within yourself, and that you are beholden onto a belief system that you are led to believe that you need to have before you can get to heaven. Because that's everyone's drive, is to, if I've done all kinds of bad things in life, then I really don't want to be in hell, because hell is a bad place. And so I need a middleman. I need to do a few things at the end of the day, so that it makes me beholden and forgiven, so that it's okay for me to actually go to heaven. What is heaven? What are all these places? These are all archetypal beliefs. So let me explain to you. It's important to understand that the soul in itself, as I said, is built out of the same sort of substance as what the noosphere and the biosphere is made up of. However, it's not the soul substance itself. It's important to understand that once the soul is experiencing you are experiencing something that is very insightful, very specific, very special for you, that you are you are allowing yourself to step into the whole process of learning. So that means you are allowing your soul to access material as well for yourself to learn from. contrary to how it's been made up, that your mind is the one that's basically all you need, and the soul is kind of like just a wishy-washy little thing that's on the end there that you need to like now and then touch base on. Some people don't even know that, irrespective of religion, that that you have a spirit. You are not your soul. You're not the sum of your soul. You're not the sum of your physical form. You are not the sum of your mind, and you are not the sum of your body and everything in it. You are essentially spirit, and you are determining how your elements, your aspects, how everything interacts with each other. I'm not skirting around the subject. I'm wanting to explain to you the importance to know how important you are. And so when you learn something, you see something beautiful, you become connected to it. Okay? When you feel something negative and something bad is happening to you, your soul is reacting to it. The same way that you are exploring and allowing love and emotional things and beauty and kindness and happiness and things to connect and come into your form, into your vessel, into you, and you are exploring it through all of those gateways, like I've said before as well. These are, you can see as gateways inside of you. You are in the same way you do the same thing when you are experiencing something that is not so fantastic, not nice to hear, not scary thoughts, angry thoughts, bad things, ugly images, things that stress you out, imminent predictability programming to get you to become triggered, so that you key into spreading that fake news, to spreading that distress information, and you do it without thinking anything else, except perhaps maybe some think, oh, I better send this along because then I've done my part. Because while I sit there as an armchair general, I can just basically swear and cuss and fight with everyone that's online digitally. Anyway, moving along from that. So your soul becomes triggered by certain events and things, whether they are positive or negative, and it does stimulate the forming of energy field around you. Your field of which your soul exists out of sparks off a particular frequency. And that frequency then connects your endocrine system, your physical form responds and reacts to it. I'm not giving a biology lesson either. But it is important for you to understand and grasp that you are not just one measly little puny human that is being swept by the tides of bullshit, by all kinds of tides. In any case, the noosphere operates in the same way. The noosphere, when you do something positive in a group setting, or you're in your garden, or you're walking in the street, it doesn't matter where you are, you walk on the beach, any of these things that are simple or basic, perhaps non-complex, however I can explain complexity also. You are interacting with the noosphere at any given point in time. When you breathe, you sit still, you walk, you move, you're in nature, you are interacting with the noosphere all the time. It is, like I've said, like water where a fish is in. A fish lives inside the water, breathes through the water, and the water is like the essence of life and the way for fish to move through, to move forward. And in the same way, you need to see yourself as a fish inside a pond or inside water to understand the importance of the noosphere. Yes, it interacts with you because you interact with it. When you stand and think about something and the wind comes up, don't you think that the wind comes up because you're feeling sad? Just to speak to you and tell you? And I know I'm going to get a lot of information on that from people, but I understand you don't have to tell me, remind me, although it's beautiful if you do share your experiences, it means that you're in connection with the noosphere. You're in connection with something that is part of which this reality exists of. However, I do need to make it very, very clear that the original creator, let's keep it simple. God, or the original creator, does not live within only the noosphere. The presence of the creator is a different subject, a different discussion, and this is about you and how you interact with the noosphere and how it interacts with you. And the next thing I want to share with you is how the noosphere can be manipulated by certain people in certain ways. Like I said, through predictive programming, that's perhaps the best way to control the noosphere, because the noosphere, once you interact with it and you do a particular ritual, like back in the day, the shamans used to see the interaction with the noosphere, which they understood to be called the net of time. Some shamans believe that that net of time, whenever there was any ritual that was done in it, that it was interacting with the net of time. Any ritual in any way, shape, or form was feeding this net of time, noosphere, or field. In other words, intentional healing that can be done over a distance, remote healing, remote access to people spiritually, psychically, physically, affects your field. It can, over distance, affect you. Healing done over distance can affect you. It can help you. It can influence you. It can expand your whatever you need to be healed for. Test it out. Explore it. Do a test with someone. Do a test with your family overseas. Someone who's actually at least open to experiencing this experiment with you, and see what happens. In the same way, don't you think that if that is possible, that externally and internally and spiritually, that the negative can happen as well? The only way it happens, though, is through the field, is through the noosphere. So the noosphere is either something good for you or something bad for you. It depends on where you are inside of you. The messages are sent through the field. Data is being sent through the field for the target or the object or the person or the event to respond or reciprocate to. I will be discussing this information in a much deeper level coming over the next few weeks. I will be doing a series of deeper explorations with you and in trying to help you to understand the importance of how to also counter things like that. It's not just psychic attack, parrying and all that stuff. It's not just about that. But think of this script, keepers, next as a introduction to understanding how important you are. Now, the next thing that you need to understand is that some people call this noosphere, as I said, I'm calling it the field. I want to call it the system overlay, but I'm going to explain to you where the system overlay comes from, and I said I would. When they made the movie The Matrix, when that happened, that basically created a stimulation in people's minds. Their ability to create within this age had become triggered by something. First of all, the hero program, Neo, who is the one. Neo, one. I mean, come on. It's really that simple. That basically everyone needed to key into that belief system that we're living inside a fake reality, that we're living inside an artificial universe. And hordes and hordes and hordes of people, alternative people, kept on driving that. There was not one footage, material, piece, part partial part, whatever you want to call it, iota, that did not have the word matrix in it, that people became like the matrix busters and the matrix this and the matrix that and mother of tricks and all that shit. And I have always called it the mother of tricks because it's not real. Let me explain. The Matrix movie in itself was the most important thing that could ever have been created by people in this world to create a false reality overlay. In other words, using the ability that is inside the noosphere or the field to magically manufacture a belief system that essentially has formed part of the noosphere, which I call the system overlay because it is artificially created by ignorance and malevolence and Ministry of Magic and you name it, predictive programming in books, movies, that yes, you live inside a fake world. Yes, you're a battery. Yes, all of these things. So all these things were touched on gently and expanded upon other parts so that you would become completely confused and you became stressed, worried, and then religion started to be questioned as well. I've never been in religion, so it's never really affected me. I know that religion was trying to get me, but I was able to step away from it. But that's another story for another day. There's a reason why I'm not focusing on everything too directly, because I don't think that the algorithms like to have information factually presented to you. So you just have to be patient with me, please. What I'm trying to explain to you is that the field, or the omega field, or the noosphere, or the morphic resonance, or magnetic field, morphic resonance, all those things, those words, really are words that describe the noosphere in itself, like I've explained. Simply put, the noosphere is intelligent, it's cognitive, and it reacts with you as you think and react with it. Secondly, it can be influenced by people. People influence it, and so influence is part of its technology. The influence then becomes either a belief system or an ideology or an archetype. It depends on your belief system in it. So if I say pink pigs flying in the air, you're going to start thinking, no, this is bullshit. Yes, this is not bullshit. And you're going to start believing in pink pigs flying in the air, and you're going to look for everything to prove pink pigs fly in the air. Eventually you'll find pink pigs flying in the air. And that is your belief system. This is just an example of how it's done. In the works and the parts that I've been showing you, you have been noticing that things have been correlating to material that was written back in the day, in the heyday, and then made to be presented in that year, so that it looks like it was powerfully predicted forward, but that it was not. It was just written down, and they were paid to make sure that the advert or the interview or the people will be at that space and place and time for that interview to take place. And you will talk about these things, which was written in the book 100 years ago. And that's how it works. Money pays the people to play the part for the show, for you to look into, to be part of, to believe how powerful they are. Because that's how the field is manipulated, by image and word. It has always been that way. Magicians believe in the power of the symbol, the image itself, the words that are being used to emphasize the image. We know that they communicate through symbols. So do we, except some have become lazy to understand the symbols, and that's why people are speaking about it. more because we've become more aware of it now. So I want to say that the field can be magically manipulated to, with regards to images. I mean, what is external is then projected or stimulated and added to the image itself: color, music, idols, pop stars, whatever. This then becomes demiurgic. And the word demiurge is not just locked into the Gnostic belief of a counter life, Depop god that wants to present the agenda that you will have no more life, you will be unalive. That agenda is the power that drives the cogs to turn. And so, how is this field manipulated, and how does it affect you, and how do you actually make it happen? Well, the first thing you do is you subject yourself to that information because you think it's beyond you, because perhaps your self-esteem is a little low and you think, I'm not worthy of more. So maybe because this guy is a doctor or a professor or a whatever clever man, that he must know more than I do, so therefore what he says is true type of belief system. You have trouble. You have work to do. You have to stop doing that. You have to stop allowing yourself to become polarized by just everything that you hear and see and learn from. You need to understand how you can control what is being fed to you. Like I've said, don't you think it's really funny that when you look at your stuff, your social media, that there's a feed for you to eat from? You determine whether you want to feed from it or not. The shamans believe that the rituals that they do that connect with deities and archetypes within the field or sea or web of time or net of time are called feedings. Shamans call it feedings. They feed through ritual, through sacrifice, through whatever rituals they do, the system, the field. This then, in their belief, creates a process of divination. This is what they believe. You don't have to go any further. You must just look around you and look and understand and explore these things. In the same way, it happens with people. Doesn't matter how many breakthroughs and operating information and stuff that's been going on in the system, that people keep keying into it. Even the discovery that the supposed things that the stabbies that go into your arm, even relaying it that it was a problem is also programmed. It was programmed for all of this to come out. They needed to do that. This was like they had to do it. They'll present the problem. They'll say, okay, here's what you do to get yourself unaffected by the problem. And then once you've done that, then oops, we'll say, oops, I knocked over the glass, and this is how I knocked over the glass, and this is how I created the stabby program. And, I'm sorry. That's what you get from that. Basically, all that was about was just to chase up the economy and fracture certain other ideologies. So, we have the noosphere. It is cognitive. It is cognitive because of the interaction it has with nature, with itself, and you. Your soul is the main operating system that connects with the noosphere. Your soul has the power, once broken down, to be able to create things to happen. Because of your reaction and your response to the field, you can influence the field around you. If you're worried about having break-ins and people to break into your house and you're going to be in trouble, then sooner or later it will happen for you because you've keyed into that. You believed that. Your fear created that for you. And so you are your worst enemy, your own worst enemy. The system overlay is the artificially created element that is based on archetypal technology, magical technology, belief systems, ideologies that operates in unison with the noosphere. In other words, it's like an artificial membrane that folds over the field, folds over the noosphere, literally. And the things that are in the air that trail, those trails in the air, are part of what keeps that field active. You see, seeding their own system overlay, their own sphere, their own artificial sphere. Because they can't control, they've always wanted to control the noosphere essentially itself, but they could never do that because the original creator does not allow that bullshit to ever happen. It cannot be controlled. It can be influenced, but it can only be influenced up to a certain point. Although I believe that it's been influenced in a very bad way, that it's polluted the field, and so, or the noosphere. And what's come from that pollution is overload, chaos of the mind. People don't know what to believe anymore. You see, the dark magicians believe that the noosphere is the omega, as I've said, and the God that is in control of that omega field is the alpha. And if they can control the omega, they think that they can control the alpha so that they can take over that role. That's their belief system. That's what's happening. That's what's always happened, aside from all the other mundane crap that's been overloading everyone. The other crap is just stuff to make you feel lost so that you don't know. It's bombardment. That's all it is. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter whether it's Schwappy or anybody else, the company that he stands for. It doesn't matter who it is. The whole shebang are all just parts, stories to keep you engaged at any given point in time, because the world requires words, and words need symbols so that things can go forward. That's what they want. Essentially, they want you to also allow your soul to be completely corrupted by the influence that the system overlay presents to you, so it will present to you things for you to key into. And what we've been doing is we've been exploring how to understand and differentiate what is false and what is real. What is real is you. That's it. Everything else around you, you are in control of. And that was why it was so important to start this channel in the first place, to help people to create their own immediate environment, their own immediate pocket reality or bubble reality, to stay in secure, so that you are unaffected by the bullshit that's been going on for some time. Now, rest assured, it is possible to disconnect oneself from the noosphere, or the system overlay, but I've told you how to do that too. It's mostly in all my videos where I've mentioned it. In almost every video do I mention it. If you're really interested to know even more about that, you can also contact me. If you really want to work for it, you want to work and understand this, then send me a note. Email me. We'll talk. However, I'm hoping that my ramblings today, based on the noosphere and the importance of the field, or the noosphere and your soul, becomes something for you to understand, as that the belief system itself is the demiurgic technology in itself that presents it. That is the power. Believe that a God that is malevolent and is evil is basically running things by presenting itself in advertising such as the Super Bowl is really quite hilarious to begin with, because it is just trying to make people who are afraid of these things more afraid. Those of us that are not afraid, or not, are much more aware of it, know that those things are just presenting themselves as adversaries, so that you must keep on believing in evil, that it is there. Doesn't mean we don't believe in it. I'm saying that they want you to see that the guy with the red horns and the fat belly he is the devil incarnate. He is a minion of the devil, and that the minion is Satan and or Lucifer, because no one seems to know which is the difference between Satan and Lucifer. It's like there's this confusion, constantly confused people, when Lucifer is a Latin word for light bringer. The understanding needs to be that light bringer means to present information only. The belief that it is an archetype that's, controlling everyone, and then it becomes Satan somewhere in the middle. It has a change, and a personality change as Satan, is the confusion. That is the confusion in itself. So now, what you need to understand about those two archetypes is they are archetypes, and that they are made to be something to give you fear, to make you feel that you'll never ever want to understand or even mention the words, their names. Some people are that afraid, and that there's only that they can handle, because it's pure evil. That is part of the control also. That if you believe in an adversary, then you know that you have an enemy. Your adversary is perhaps worrying about income tax. Keep on believing that the income tax is probably going to be the death of you one day, and so it becomes your enemy. You've made it into a reality for yourself. Lo and behold, it was the death of you, because you believed it. So you need to understand that we're discussing much deeper material here, which I've only touched briefly on based on the information that I'm sharing with you. I will be expanding more on this eventually. But understand only the simple things, that if you are afraid, then you give already part of your energy away to those who are influencing and trying to manipulate the field. And that you need to work on yourself. You need to find yourself. You need to define yourself. You need to know who you are. You need to be in constant awareness of getting to know what you are. Because if you're aware of that, you're able to understand that you have great abilities. Once you need to know how to use those abilities, that's the next step. Well, then that's why I'm here, because that's why I'm going to teach you, if you're interested in wanting to know that. However, it's not going to be for the faint-hearted. And as I've said, I've created a lecture that I've put together. It's pretty much ready. I'm deciding how to present it, because it's massive. It's huge. And I will decide how to present it across, because it's very sensitive in nature as well. Just like the subject that we're talking about is highly sensitive, because it is serious. Your soul is important to you. It's also important to them. They can get you excited and stressed out, then it means your soul will release a frequency that will help them to carry on building their fake system overlay, fake field, their fake matrix. I'll leave this with you. Till next time. Bye.